sure he's a bad man.
Good to go. Welcome back to Morning Kickoff Show, live here from Pizza Inn of Greeneville. As always, I'm your host, Tyler, joined here for the third week in a row by the boss man, Dalton Lamb. We're still missing Mark. I think he's being replaced.
He's quitting on us.
I know.
My mouth is full of food.
He was on vacation 2 weeks ago. He's doing the voice of, I think, Sullivan Heights football. I could be wrong on that. But, Mark, we miss you again. Can't wait till you're back. But I do enjoy sitting down every Saturday morning to talk about some high school football with you.
I do, too. I enjoy it.
We've got 2 wins to talk about this week. South Green defeated Chucky Doak, and then North Green traveled to Cumberland Gap for their third straight win, something that we haven't been able to say for 12 years since I was personally in middle school. So it's been a long time since North Green has won 3 games in a row. We'll get to that in just a bit, though. But first, we need to talk about the South Green-Chucky Doak game because, of course, it does feature 2 of our county teams. Unfortunately, you had to have one county team lose in that situation, and it was Chucky Doak. South Green winning big in that matchup, 58-14, the third largest margin of victory in that rivalry's history. Fun little tidbit also, it was the 50th game between South Green and Chucky Doak last night. Yep. Not the 50th anniversary. That'll come next year.
Yep.
But the 50th game between the two, I don't know which team has won more or what the record of the rivalry is, but South Green holds those 3 largest margin of victories, added one last night with that 44-point win. Great night for the Rebels on offense. They got to play at home on Rebel Hill once again. Had 328 yards of offense, 186 of those came on the ground in the rushing department, and then 142 came in the air. Nash Rader, once again, a great night of football. I mean, when he touches the ball, he's electric. And the very few times that he touched the ball, he got into the end zone. 6 rushes, 83 yards, 2 touchdowns, 38 receiving yards, and a punt return touchdown. Jacob Susong didn't pass it much, but when he did, 4 or 5 different receivers and 33 rushing yards.
And accurate, too. It was a good night for him.
Trip Neese, not as good of a night as he had last week. I know he tore it up with a trio of touchdowns. He had 5 rushes, 36 yards, and a receiving touchdown. Great night by the Rebels all the way around.
I mean, I posted it in one of the highlights that I posted from the broadcast last night. In the first quarter, South Green had scored in all 3 phases of the game. Offense, defense, and special teams in the first quarter alone. And, and I don't think that South Green is a 58-14 better team than Chucky Doak. Chucky Doak had a lot of injuries.
They've been dealing with a lot this year.
A lot of injuries. They've had a lot of injuries to key players, and that's a big part of it. That was a big part of the issue. I will say that even still, South Green, I don't think is a 58-14 team better than them. And what I mean by that, obviously they beat them by that score, so that sounds ignorant to make that statement. But what I mean is that if you play that game 10 times, the score is probably not 58-14 every time. South Green just came out and in every facet of the game in the first quarter, I mean, it was, you blinked and it was 30-0.
Yeah.
It was just, again, touchdown, 3 and out, punt return touchdown, strip sack, or well, it was a strip tackle, and just take it and run with it touchdown. I mean, 3 touchdowns in the span of maybe a minute and a half of game time, 2 minutes of game time. Just all 3 phases of the game just really blew up the Chucky Doak defense. Chucky Doak couldn't do anything on offense last night. I don't know a lot. The box score is going to say one thing, but a lot of the yardage and both the touchdowns were late in the game. Mm-hmm. They scored. You can't take that away from them. But it was an impressive night all the way around for South Green. If you're a South Green fan, you feel pretty good about that. If you're a Chucky Doak fan, the thing that I would say is, again, like I just said, you're not a 58-14 worse team than South Green. You ran into a buzzsaw last night.
Yeah.
And, it's a team that's playing inspired right now. We've talked about the things that they've been through in the last year and especially in the last month, that they're playing inspired football right now. That it's a school and it's a team that if you've never been out there and I'm not saying in the past, I don't know anything about South Green from the past, but what Lori and Coach Hosey and Phillip, and those are just the 3 in leadership. Yeah. Phillip Cutshaw, Terry Hosey, Lori Wilhoit. What they've done from a perspective of organization and just leadership is really, really impressive. And I'm sure everyone will have their opinion about different things. It doesn't matter. Everyone has an opinion about anything. But as it relates to what I'm concerned with, I don't know many places that the administration is that aligned.
I
now,
agree.
There's good administration all over Greene County. That's not what I'm saying. But those three are just like when they talk to each other, when they're working to each other, like they're all willing to just jump in and do whatever. I mean, you know, a couple weeks ago, Aaron's funeral, there were vacations and things like that were going on, and Philip just jumped in and led that whole deal on Sunday. Obviously not something you're expecting. Just they're always willing to jump in, and that it's a trickle down effect to the coaching staff, both in football, basketball, baseball, whatever it is. It's a trickle down effect through that community, and they're playing inspired football right now. They're a good football team. I'm not going to take that away from them. They're a good football team. Defensively, offensively, they're sound, but they're playing inspired football.
Yeah.
And they are well aligned in every facet of the school, and everyone seems to be on the same page, and you see that. And it's fun to go to South Greene High School and cover games and do things because, one, they want you there. I'll just say that outright. Like, Lori came up to the press box last night as we were setting up for the broadcast and handed me rosters. The principal of the school hands me rosters and then comes up like 30 minutes before kickoff and just says, "Hey, do you need anything? Like, do you need anything at all?" And then after the game, we're up there tearing stuff down. She comes up there and she's like, "Hey, can I help carry anything out?" Like, it's good to feel like you're not impeding on, and we are very, very fortunate in Greene County that we get that kind of treatment everywhere we go. But recency bias. Last night there at South Greene High School, it was just really, really nice. And when you see those things, it's a snapshot of why they are successful in the ways that they are successful. And I think, again, that's why Greene County schools are successful in sports all throughout, is because we have good leadership in this county. There's a lot of people that are going to disagree with the statement I just made, but we have good leadership in this county. And, you know, South Greene is a definitely a microcosm of that, and I enjoyed it last night. I don't really have a whole lot of input on the game. It was what it was. South Greene really good in all facets of the game. Just couldn't be stopped. Couldn't, you know, if you're Chuggy Doke, couldn't get anything going. There's not a whole lot to highlight there. I mean, we could shout out names and things like that, but
that's probably what I'll do and just run down the list. But at the end of the day, I mean,
there's an article they can read.
That's true.
You know,
for $8 a month, you can
$8 a month, $72 a year. You can join that. So, yeah, I think that's. Tate wrote a good article, a better article than I would have been able to write for that game last night. But you know, if you were in maroon last night, you were happy. If you were wearing black and gold, you probably weren't so much. And I'll say this, you know, we had another player that was injured. This is the third of 3 out of the 4 weeks that we've had our broadcast. We've had to deal with injuries that weren't just like, okay, they were down for a little while, maybe it was a knee and they got them up and took them off, but ambulance comes out, works on the student athlete. And in this case last night, you know, Ethan Highmiller, who was the same player who was flown out at West Greene last year, was flown out from South Greene last night. I have no clue, any kind of update, what's going on. I know that I talked with Coach Donahue last night, really don't have an update. And even if it's just hearsay, like, I'm not going to report something, especially something like that. I'm not going to report something that I don't know.
Yes.
If somebody reaches out to us and gives us concrete evidence, kind of like last week with Gage, we'll be more than happy to pass that along. All I know is that, you know, I'm sure that his family would appreciate, you know, prayers and thoughts and well wishes and whatever. But scary situation there last night. Again, don't really know what happened. It looked like a normal play. He rolled up and he was rolling around down there, and then, you know, the trainer comes across the field and she stabilizes him, and then they end up calling for helicopter. So I don't know. I'm not a first responder. I wasn't down there, but it was a scary situation. And I know just watching his mom and his family, the way that they were, you know, torn up and things, and I would be the same way. And it just, it puts things in perspective, I think. And it it really gets old seeing this happen week in and week out.
Happened in my game last night too.
Yeah.
Had a 25-minute stoppage because a player gets injured on a 2-point conversion attempt and has to get taken out in an ambulance. And it just feels like so far this year we're only 4 weeks in, and it's been the year of injuries because we've talked about how 3 of our 4, I'm not even going to try to say the correct wordage of our game of the week, but we've had an ambulance or a helicopter take a student athlete away in 3 of the 4 games this week. If you go back to the first middle school game day that we did, we had one happen then also with a Churchill player getting injured at Camp Creek Elementary. And then in my game last night out at Cumberland Gap, you had a player getting taken away. So last year it seemed like it was the year of the weather. This year, unfortunately, it seems like it's the year of the injury. And a lot of teams throughout, you look at Chucky Doak, who we're talking about right now, that's banged up right now. And again, had a player airlifted last night. South Green just got Trey Gentry back last night, who had missed the first 3 weeks of the regular season. I'm sure we'll talk about West Green here in a minute, but the reason they were so successful against Chucky Doak last week is because they had a brand new starting quarterback in Austin Brown. He goes down with an injury last night. So you've had multiple injuries, not just throughout the season, but this week also. And it just seems like teams can't stay healthy this year. And it's unfortunate because I think health is a main concern in just life in general, but of course in sports. And you hate to see players get injured because then teams aren't at their full strength. You don't have the same weapons out there. You enjoy watching some of those players that get injured too. And at the end of the day, you just want everybody to be healthy.
Yeah, and it did. I mean, it, you know, with a minute 46, I think, is what was left in the half when that injury happened, and they just ended up going to halftime. And you could just tell, I mean, not only was there a running clock in the second half, but you could also tell that, like, players, fans, coaches, on both sides, everybody was ready to just be done. You know, like, I don't care what the situation is. I don't care what happened. I don't care where the injury occurred. If you are a player, a fan, or a coach, anybody that cares enough about kids to come and watch them play, if you see a kid lie there motionless on the ground and a helicopter has to fly in and land and fly away with your fellow player or opponent, whatever, it just, you don't care about football anymore.
No.
And you definitely felt that vibe the rest of the night. And it, you know, it just wasn't a fun atmosphere in the second half. I mean, and it wasn't even related to the score. It was just everything else circumstantially that was going on around. And it wasn't fun in that regard. And, you know, you just don't like doing those games.
Nope.
You don't like doing stuff like that.
And it's hard to start back after that too.
Yeah, it is.
It's hard for a fan. I can only imagine how hard. You've got to go through that emotion of losing a player. You've got to play the rest of the game without knowing his condition and his health and how he is. And, I mean, to put it bluntly, sometimes you just want the game to be over with and just go to the locker room and just call it because you worry about the health of your friend, the health of your son, the health of your grandson, player, whatever relation that you may be to that person. And I wish the injuries would stop. There's been too many so far, and we're not even halfway through the regular season yet. Yeah. So,
but I mean, final thought is my prayers, my thoughts, and I told Kyle the same last night. Like, we're thinking about him, we're praying about him, with Ethan and his family, and also with the football team and the staff and administration, everything with Chucky Doak High School. 2 weeks in a row they've had something like this happen, and you know, luckily Gage ended up getting released, and it wasn't, you know, it's just a stinger or whatever. Again, we don't know anything about Ethan. We're praying that it's nothing major, that it's something, you know, it's something that is not as detrimental as it looked like on the field. But not really a whole lot to talk about in that game.
Not much at all. One little fun fact I have that Tate put in our article. With 2:48 left in the first quarter, South Green led 30-0 despite only having 6 offensive plays.
Yep.
I mean, that's one stat right there that you can read off that pretty much sums up the game. Like I said, we could go through all the stats. I went through the team stats, the winning margin, South Green's main player stats. Brent Wilhoit, 8 for 8 on extra points.
Yeah.
That's something that you probably haven't heard from a South Green kicker in years and years. And to see that's pretty special. I mean, not many county teams have great kickers. To see one go 8 for 8, that's a big difference maker in a ball game.
It is. It really is. I mean, in a lot of ways.
Chucky Doak, 95 yards of total offense. Kipton Ball getting his first start at quarterback, 8 for 16, 118 yards, 2 touchdowns. But moving forward, South Green travels to Union County, and then Chucky Doak gets their first region game at home in Lower Afton against Pigeon Forge, a game that they won, if I remember correctly, 7-0 last year in Pigeon Forge. What a slugfest that must have been.
Yeah, it was a good game last year. I mean, I don't know what it'll look like this year, and I have no clue what Pigeon Forge looks like this year. I know they won last night, but I have no clue what they look like this season.
I haven't checked either. Last time I saw, though, they were ranked top 10 in the state in Class 3A, so Chucky Doak has their hands full next week. What a monumental upset that would be, though, if they could knock off the Tigers at home to pick up their first region win after the 2-week stretch that they've had the last 2 weeks. And South Green, of course, traveling to Union County. Another one I want to mention, too. Last night, South Green only allowed 95 yards of offense. If you go back to the game against Cumberland Gap, they held them to 41 yards. So in the last 2 weeks, you've seen South Green only allow, 136 yards of offense?
Yep.
You average that out, that's about 65, 66 yards total, 67, something around there. So Joe Case is doing a really good job scouting defenses out and game planning against those, because so far this year, South Green is allowing virtually nothing.
The defense was stellar last night.
I mean, they're swarming to everything.
That's the first time I watched them play, and it was stellar. I mean, it's kind of like whenever Tennessee played Chattanooga, you were kind of hesitant to, you win by a score of 58-14, and obviously Chucky Doak on the offensive side of the ball had several injuries, and so you hesitate to say, man, they looked really good. But what you just said, they were flying to the football. Like, I don't care who is playing. Mm-hmm. I don't care who you're lining up against. They were flying to the football without abandon, and one man would hold him up. Next 2-3 guys would be flying in to finish up the tackle, and that's just good football. That's good football. That's a Joe Case MO. We used to have a saying whenever he first came there. We actually had shirts, 11 angry men flying to the football. That was our goal on defense, was just to be 11 guys out there with your hair on fire. Like, you want to do things right, you want to line up right, you want to read your keys right, but at the end of the day, if you are not going 100%, then you're not doing something right. And that's a standard thing. That's a program. That's a culture thing. Yeah. That doesn't just happen. You have to have that in you. Like, I don't care how good of a player you are. If you don't have that mentality that I'm going 100% every single play, you don't have that. But if you build a culture that says that, then what you get is what you saw last night.
South Green definitely has that culture too. They've had it for a while now, and they move forward to Union County next week, hoping to improve. Also, they improved to 2-1 with that win last night, looking to improve to 3-1. Chucky Doak drops to 1-3 with 3 straight losses now, moving forward and hosting Pigeon Forge in their first Region 1 3A game. Let's move forward to North Green now. Another win in the county last night. And as we mentioned, for the first time in 12 seasons, North Green has won 3 straight games after beating Castlewood from Virginia. Last night they beat Jellicoe, and then this week they beat Cumberland Gap 40-21 on the road up there in Claiborne County. A heck of a win last night in a game where it looked like the tides were turning in Cumberland Gap's favor, and big defensive stands by North Green allowed them to get back on offense, put the ball in the end zone multiple times. It was a fun game. I'll run down through it, but you're seeing a different North Green team this year. I think that's evident with the 3-game winning streak, but just the attitude and the way this team plays when they're facing adversity. They don't lie down. They kind of want to overcome that adversity, and I think this North Green team likes a challenge, because in recent years, the North Green teams that receive a challenge, I don't know how well they respond to it. This team responds really well to a lot of challenges. They went on 2 game-winning drives against Jellicoe last week. They went up 14-0 this week, allowed 2 touchdowns. Cumberland Gap gets the ball back after halftime, moving down the field, about to score again, and then they get a defensive turnover, score, then get a defensive touchdown, and then hold them to a 3-and-out, and then score once again. So, fantastic win by North Green last night. Brand new team, as we've mentioned, week in and week out now, and it's a fun team to watch in Green.
It is. I've only got to watch them the one time this year. I will say, we'll talk about this a little more, but I will say that I'm a man of the people, Tyler. And we got a comment on our broadcast there on Facebook, and somebody wanted me to give you one of these.
Okay.
Just wanted you to get a little horns down action.
That's all right.
So I had to stumble you a little bit there. But unlike the North Green Huskies, Texas Longhorns are a team I don't think can sustain it the rest of the year. But I think the Huskies, they found something.
They have.
They found something, and I think they're going to be able to continue. And I think what they found is exactly what you alluded to, is that their ability to face adversity and not just, I don't even mean roll over, but not like just accept the challenge and be like, well, we might be able to come back and win.
They have the mindset that they will.
They will.
Yes.
Like it's the mindset now, like we're not going to lose. And, that's what, if you've ever been on a team that was good, you have that mindset.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you get down, if you get down early or even late, it never enters your mind like we're going to lose this game. It's like, okay, how are we going to win?
Yes.
But the thought like we're going to lose this game never comes into your mind. It's like this is going to be just a little bit different. This isn't how I imagine this going. And I feel like that's North Green. I mean, you look at Jellicoe last week, and you talked about it here a little bit. You talked about it in your article too. Like them, they nearly had the game tied up. And it looked like that game could go the opposite direction.
Way, yes.
And then like a shot out of a cannon. I think maybe, again, wasn't there, but I think one of the turning points was the fumble recovery.
That was to me, that was the turning point because, I mean, you're about to go down and then you get a huge fumble recovery and you score off of that and then you go back up and then you force another defensive turnover that ends up going for a touchdown. I mean, those were huge turning points.
Yeah. I mean, as a former player, as an athlete in any sport, something like that happens. I mean, it's one of those things that the momentum really does shift.
It's a backbreaker.
Yeah, it's the momentum shifts, and I think that's the other thing too, is that not only were they able to fight against adversity, but a lot of teams would have got that fumble recovery. Maybe they scored, maybe they didn't. But even if they did score, it's like, okay, now we've got a lead. Yeah. North Green said, no, our foot's on the throat. We're going to keep it there.
And they kept it going too.
Yeah.
Going through, I mean, they started out hot. You saw it in the West Green game. You saw it once again in this game. Brandon Weems' 75-yard kickoff return touchdown on the opening kickoff.
Yep.
That kid's fun to watch, and once he gets in open space, he's gone. They go up 6-0 on the opening kickoff. They have a great first defensive stand. I think they forced them for a loss of 6 yards, and then on the punt, there was a bad snap that forced the Cumberland Gap punter to just lay down on the 21-yard line. So they had short field from there and walked into the end zone via a 5-yard rushing touchdown from Yeshua Vault. So they're up 14-0 right there. I didn't include it in my notes, but I can go back and look in our article. Teams of old with Cumberland Gap, you're used to them just running the ball, running the ball. Well, they've got a new coach now. Things changed a little bit to where they're not more pass heavy, but they're passing it more than they had in the past. But
well, a few times a game at least.
Yes, for the rest of the first half, they went back to those old ways because in the final 18 minutes and 18 seconds of the first half, Cumberland Gap had the ball for 16 minutes and 31 seconds of that. So the final 18-18, North Green only had the ball for a minute and 47 seconds.
You're doing a lot of math this morning.
A minute and 47 in the rest of the first half after going up 14-0. And Cumberland Gap scored off both of those drives. They had a long, I think it was about a 6-minute drive, and they scored a touchdown. Allen Brooks was the one who scored both touchdowns.
Talk about demoralizing.
Yes. You go up 14-0. I mean, all the energy and the momentum's on your sideline.
As a head coach of the Duke Blue Devils in an online dynasty in college football 2025, I can tell you that the first year our defense was terrible. And I can tell you that those long drives where the team is just 4 and 5 yards at a time and just holding the ball, it's miserable. And it just makes you feel like you're never going to have anything go your way ever again. And when they do that 2 times in a row and come back to nearly tie you, again, adversity to overcome that. And our good buddy Drew Hall, he just commented there a few minutes ago and said, is it safe to say the Huskies are back? I mean, you've covered them for the last 2 weeks now. What do you think?
It's a brand new team, like I've said. You saw that win against Jellicoe last week where they seem like they just go on a game-winning drive and then have to go on another one. And then this game where it seems like the odds are stacked against them and they're about to go back to the ways of old and then they turn things around. I'm not going to necessarily say they're back yet, but They've got a very winnable game next week in Hancock County at home, a team that they beat last week. Then they've got a great test against Williamsburg, Kentucky, a team that beat them pretty badly last year in Kentucky. So I think that'll be a tall task, but you're seeing a North Green team that might be back.
You heard it here. Tyler's not ready to say they're back yet. He's not ready to say feels like 2012.
12.
Feels like 2012 yet. He's almost there, but he's not there yet. So so they take care of Hancock County, and then that Williamsburg game. What do you got to see to say that the Huskies are back? And I
A
say
win
back.
against Williamsburg, depending on what Williamsburg team shows up, would prove that, because that quarterback last year was the best quarterback they saw all year. One of the best quarterbacks that I personally saw last year, too, that could run it, throw it on the run, throw it 50 yards downfield.
Underclassman?
I couldn't remember, but if they can contain him, if he's still there, I don't know. Williamsburg is a team that I don't know if anybody outside of North Green fans and us even know who Williamsburg, Kentucky is or where it's at. If you miss that exit going to Jellicoe, you'll definitely find out where it's at. But they're a very good team. If North Green can knock off that Williamsburg team, I think that you could say they're back, but they're going to have to contain that quarterback, and they're going to have to keep themselves composed, because that's one thing about last night's game, too. If you read that article that you can read for $8 a month, there were penalty flags.
$72 a year.
Yes, there were penalty flags thrown like nothing else. I mean, of course, the Chucky Doak West Green game was bad last night, but North Green had unsportsmanlike conduct on unsportsmanlike conduct on unsportsmanlike conduct, just back to back to back, just back-breaking penalties that helped Cumberland Gap sustain those long drives.
Gotta clean that up.
Yes, you have to clean that up a lot. They were playing emotional last night, Cumberland Gap was, and as Coach Tilson said, it kind of affected North Green a little bit too. They were acting upon that emotion that Cumberland Gap was playing with, but they were able to compose themselves, and I've got the article up right here. As he said, when we were calm, cool, and collected and controlled what we do, we were very good tonight. When we do things well, we're a good football team, and we're starting to show that. We started sloppy, just a lot of self-imposed stuff, things that hurt ourselves. We played a very emotional team, and we let that emotion get to us. When we're calm, cool, and collected, that's when we play our best football. In that second half, we were calm, cool, and collected and played our best football. I'm trying to go through here because I don't have it in my notes, but that second drive that they went on in the second half, or in the first half, I'm sorry, the second quarter, might have been the longest drive that I have ever seen. 10 minutes and 11 seconds.
That's almost an entire quarter.
They almost had the ball the entire quarter. 10 minutes and 11 seconds. Cumberland Gap marched down the field. Scored to cut their deficit to only 1 point going into halftime. They scored with 2 seconds left to go. Was that play before the touchdown a fumble? Very good question. It was very bang-bang. I don't know. The video that I got was not the best because I was in the back of the end zone. Had a player walk right in front where the ball came out, so I don't know if the knee was down or not, but North Green thought they had recovered a fumble and made a huge defensive stop right there before halftime. Just another tidbit of how good North Green's defense has gotten and how they overcome adversity, kind of forcing that ball to pop out right at the end zone. But they go into halftime down 14-13. Cumberland Gap gets the ball back, marching down the field. A bad snap flies over their head. Who else than the fastest player on the field, Brandon Weems. Gets back there, recovers the fumble, and then they march down the field. Yeshua Vaught has a big 53-yard run that gets him to the 10-yard line. 3 straight plays go nowhere. They're still at the 10-yard line on 4th and 10, 4th and goal. I don't know which one you want to call it, I guess 4th and goal, but Yeshua gets a little wheel route, breaks open from his defender, wide open in the end zone, 10-yard receiving touchdown to put North Green up, and then after that, Dash Stigin, 72-yard pick six. Not only did he jump the route, stiff-arm the quarterback on his way down the field.
Get off me,
to
fool.
score that touchdown. Put them up 28-13 on that following 2-point conversion was when the player from Cumberland Gap was injured and had to be taken away on an ambulance. So at that point, teams kind of slow down a little bit. There's about a 25, 30-minute break, and then teams come out. You're thinking maybe North Green's too excited of the lead that they've just cracked open, and they might start playing too conservative or too cocky. That wasn't the case. They go back down again. Kelson Eastet, 47-yard receiving touchdown, and it was kind of like Tennessee's offense if you watched last week. If you keep running that RPO, you're going to suck the defense in, and then that one big play, you can go over the top, and that player is wide open downfield. And that's how it worked for Kelson Eastet. Wide open, was not a defender in sight, He could almost walk into the end zone. He was so wide open. 47-yard touchdown. They get the ball back. Thomas Darnell took him one play to go 37 yards into the end zone. And then Cumberland Gap scored a kickoff return touchdown on the very next play after that. So very eventful second half after a slower first half. But North Green responding very well to those three back-to-back drives that Cumberland Gap had that a lot of teams would call backbreakers, because you let them score twice in 2 drives that amounted to 16 minutes, and then they come out with another 3.5-minute drive approaching the red zone, and you're able to force that big defensive turnover and then get the ball back on offense and score, I think, 3 more times on offense and once on defense. But they got Hancock County this week. It's a team they beat last year. It's a team I'm not going to say they struggled with last year on the road, but it wasn't an easy win up there in Sneedville. I don't think anything is an easy win up there in Sneedville. It's certainly not an easy drive to go to Sneedville either, if you've ever made that drive. But they've got to make the drive from Sneedville down to Bayleton this week. That'll be a great game to watch. North Green looking for 4 in a row. Can they do it?
I think so. I think they very well can. And only time will tell. But, I mean, they've definitely got the team. They've got the pieces. Just a matter of coming up, showing up, and playing.
We're 6 days away from finding out. I guess the next time we'll sit here on Saturday morning, hopefully we talk about another North Green win. They're streaking with clothes on, of course, with a 3-game win streak now, but we've got to go into a break before we touch on the second half, so stick with us. Catch the Greenville and West Green recaps on the second half. We've got to get a word from our sponsors in first, so we'll be right back here in just a minute on Grassroots Media.
Pizza Inn offers contactless buffet to go with JoJo's Family Feast or anything on our menu for carryout. We also honor birthday parties and cater to businesses and large events. We make it easy. Call us today. Pizza Inn Greeneville.
At Corner Pond, the friendly and knowledgeable staff has the experience necessary to help you out regardless the need. Have an item of value you'd like to pawn or sell? Corner Pond can help. They pawn numerous items of value, including firearms, tools, ammunition, silver, coins, and much more. When you walk through their doors, you'll find well-stocked shelves full of electronics, gaming systems, fishing and hunting equipment, car audio and accessories. And don't forget about the room full of guitars and basses and amplifiers, or their outside lawn and garden equipment. Corner Pond is a case knife dealer and carries numerous used knives as well. Stop by and let the friendly staff at Corner Pond help you today at 432 East Bernard Avenue, Greeneville, Tennessee. For more than 30 years, Tommy's Plumbing has served customers in East Tennessee with licensed and professional plumbing services. From installing your new faucet to replacing your existing piping system, our team at Tommy's Plumbing is trained to handle the job with professionalism, attention to detail, and integrity. By offering warranties on most products installed by our technicians, Tommy's Plumbing stands behind our work, ensuring that your plumbing needs are not only met, but that your problem is solved for the long term. When you need reliable and professional plumbing service, Tommy's is the only call to make. So give us a call today and let us show you the Tommy's difference.
Drug Company services the surrounding communities of Bayleton with excellent patient care using a full-line pharmacy, over-the-counter selections, and a convenient drive-thru. When you visit us, you are treated as a neighbor, not a number. It's not just our slogan, but our culture. We're invested in our patients, local schools, and community. For over 5 years now, we have established ourselves as an independently family-run pharmacy that isn't driven by corporate goals. We are driven by what is best for your overall health and wellness. We're conveniently located so you don't have to make the drive. Prescription drugs are just the tip of the iceberg. We also offer natural remedies, essential oils, at-home medical needs such as walkers, rollators, bath accessories, as well as wound care products. And coming soon, basic urgent care services. What makes us better than other drugstores out there? When you frequent Bayleton Drug, you will receive professional, courteous, and friendly service that goes above and beyond any other pharmacy in the area. Remember, you're a neighbor, not a number.
Balancing your financial goals with integrity. That's what we do at Cornerstone Wealth Management Group. Our team of experts craft unique financial plans that reflect your values and aspirations. We navigate life's financial paths with precision, ensuring your journey is stable and your family's dreams are within reach. Our collective expertise means your financial strategy is crafted by skilled hands, ensuring transparency and ethical advice every step of the way. If you're looking for a trusted team of certified financial planners who are committed to your family's prosperity, please reach out. Together, we'll journey towards a brighter future.
Pizza Inn offers contactless buffet to go with JoJo's Family Feast or anything on our menu for carryout. We also honor birthday parties and cater to businesses and large events. We make it easy. Call us today. Pizza Inn Greeneville.
Welcome back to Grassroots Media. Welcome back to this morning's edition of the Pizza Inn Saturday Morning Kickoff Show, live here from Pizza Inn in Greenville. Once again, I'm your host Tyler, joined here with my co-host Dalton.
What is going on?
Man, I've had like 5 hours of sleep last night. It's tough out here.
I mean, you're Dalton. I'm Tyler. Nice to meet you guys. I'll be taking over the show now. My name's Tyler Nichols. Get some sleep, man.
Go ahead, talk about Greenville.
I don't know if you watched. I know we just talked about it. You watched the game there on Rivalry Thursday. It's a game where you like to see. I mean, Willen got his yards. Caden Ball got his yards. Zayden Anderson had 1 yard.
Like 1 receiving yard.
You feel like in a game like that, of that magnitude, especially when you get down in that game, you would like to see, Zayden Anderson and some of those other athletes get involved a little bit more. And I don't know, I don't know if it was a scheme thing. I don't know if it was one of those deals where, like, they liked what they had in the box and they kept trying to, do the power stuff over and over and over again. That may have been the case, and it may have been the right decision. I mean, if they go through the air and try to spread things out and do things, it may just, A, not be something they're comfortable with doing, and it, B, maybe not something that the defense was giving them. I don't know. I know that there's a lot of armchair quarterbacks out there that have a lot of opinions about what should or should not happen from any given game, whether it's high school, college, NFL. But the reality is we don't know. We weren't there. We didn't analyze the formation that was given, the scheme that was there. What we do know is that Carson Quillen had 95 yards, so did Caden Ball. They had, 210?
Greenville had 210 yards.
210 yards of total offense. Those two accounted for the majority of that.
Actually, almost all of it. You had 190 in the rushing department from both players, and then the rest of the 20 was Caden Ball through the air.
Yeah, so, you can, when you see that box score, you definitely can say, well, if we'd have thrown it more, or if we'd have run it outside more, and those are all things that you can say, but you don't really know if the result's going to be any different. What we know is that Alcoa team is elite. They had some elite defensive line play. They've got some big guys up front. Greenville was not able to do, and again, like I said about South Green and Chuggy Doak last night, South Green is not a 58-14 team better than Chuggy Doak, and Alcoa is not a 31-14 team better than Greenville. That's a game that I think if they played again this Friday, Greenville may win that game. I don't think that 31-14, whatever that final score was, I believe that was at 31-13.
Yeah.
I don't think that final score is really that indicative of who Greenville is as a team against upper level competition. I think, Greenville got, or I say Greenville, but Alcoa got a couple scores there towards the end of the game that were, late scores. Game was pretty much well at hand. That score doesn't really reflect it, but I will say that you have to get more offensive production, but at the same time, like, your defense has to lock down better. And I know that Alcoa had some players, but Condiv Cherry, he ran like wildfire throughout the game. And quarterback for, I can't remember his name slipped my mind.
Eli Graff.
He's also very, very fast.
Oh, he made them go.
Yeah,
and I think Coach Spradlin even alluded to that in his post-game interview with Tate. I mean, he made them go. He had 3 rushing touchdowns on the night. There's a reason why that they knew that he was going to be a big problem in that game, and he was. Because, I mean, 3 rushing touchdowns on the ground, 1 in the air. That's lethal.
Well, and you also had the tight end. Is it the tight end?
Eli Owens, yes.
Eli Owens, he's committed to Michigan. I mean, that's 3 guys that, you've got a quarterback that can throw it and run it and is athletic. You've got a running back in Cherry who is athletic, can run, has good, ball carrier vision. And then you've got a tight end. Who cares about the wide receivers at this point? You've got a tight end that's committed to the University of Michigan, who, yes, they got destroyed by some team from Austin last week, but they also won the national championship last year. I mean, it's a player who is legit, and that's a lot of weapons. And for a defense, you have to force them to be one-dimensional. And unfortunately for Greeneville, they weren't able to do that throughout the course of the game. And it ends up being the reason they lose. But again, I think that it wasn't a talent standpoint. That's the thing. Alcoa, normally whenever they beat teams, it's because they're just better.
Yes.
Alcoa was not better than Greeneville. They won because they executed better, and they came up, they scored. I say scored. They executed better throughout the game, and they scored in more opportunistic times. Their offense went a little better. I think Greeneville's offense needed to be better. I think their defense needed to be better as well. But from a talent standpoint, Greeneville did not get out-talented Thursday night.
I mean, like we mentioned, Alcoa's got just, you put your hand in the bag, and whatever player you pick out, they're going to be a weapon on that team. You've got Eli Graff, you've got Eli Owens, you've got Condis Cherry, and one player that I like to talk about a lot too, that a lot of people don't talk about, but I'm sure you will in a few years, Jameer Dean, who had that 15-yard receiving touchdown with just a few ticks left in the first half to put them up going into halftime. If you watch them play basketball, you definitely know who he is, and you'll know about him in the future. But with Greeneville, I think it's one of those where the adjustments in the second half weren't what needed to be. They had a great first half, almost went into the halftime leading the game, but allowed that 1 score. But Hayden Ball, 4 of 7 for 20 yards passing. He had 95 yards on the ground and a rushing touchdown. It's a different type of ball game for him, because we talked about how the Dobbins-Bennett game was his first game seeing big boy football. And I think this was his first game walking into an atmosphere like Alcoa. They've went on the road a few times this year, once already this year, but it was to Cherokee, and no knock to Cherokee. They're not near the environment that you would experience when you're walking into the 9-time defending 3A state champion Alcoa Tornadoes facilities. And I'm sure that was a culture shock to him last night. It was probably a culture shock to everybody else walking into that atmosphere, seeing everything that they saw, state champion, this and that. And then Carson Quillen, of course, 19 rushes, 95 yards, and a touchdown. Still a good game by him. You talk about how they're only able to put 13 on the board, and you're talking about a rare Greeneville loss, and Carson Quillen still almost had a 100-yard night, and it's more yards than he had in some of their blowout wins to start the year. He
got yards that he should not have gotten because of the way he plays the football game. He doesn't stop. Like he constantly goes. He's got a motor that is just all the time, and he's all business. He shouldn't have got one multiple times. I remember one play in particular, dive up the middle. He gets hit at the line of scrimmage, and the pile continues to move, and then you see him emerge for another 4 yards, and then he gets tackled. It was like a 10-yard gain when he was hit at the line of scrimmage, and then again he pops that big touchdown run, and I'm sure he was really sore on Friday morning. He was probably sore on Friday morning because those 19 carries, he got hit a lot. It wasn't like he's normally used to, where he makes a couple cuts, maybe breaks a tackle, and then he goes to the house. He earned those 95 yards this week,
and that's a big Alcoa defense.
It's a big Alcoa defense. They were big up front.
Yes, they were.
Not only were they big up front too, and that is something that that is the difference between the SEC and a lot of other conferences, is the speed. And that's the first team that I think Greeneville has played this year that's matched them with speed and athleticism. And, but you have to play games like this, because you've got, coming down the stretch, when you get to the playoffs, you know, you're going to have your Elizabethans in the season, possibly even, but you got your Elizabethans, you've got your Anderson counties, you've got your Uppermans.
Travel to Morristown West this week, which is always a good game, no matter what team you see.
You need to be tested. You know, we've seen Greeneville teams in the past that have run through the regular season like it was water.
Yep.
And then they get to the playoffs, and 1, 2, 3 rounds deep, they run into a team that is as good as them, or maybe slightly not as good as them, but they lose. So you need games like this early in the season and even late in the season where you're going to be tested. You're going to, you know, you got to figure some things out, and it's just good. And it's, you know, it's good to see.
You never like to take a loss. You never like to say some losses are necessary losses, but I think it's been since 2021 the last time we've seen a rare regular season loss for Greeneville, a loss that they outright lost.
Yeah.
Disregarding a week 1 scenario, but I would hate to be Morristown West this week when Greeneville walks in there.
They're going to have a lot to prove.
Some of these, the last time that Greeneville has taken an actual regular season loss, these seniors like Carson Quillen were freshmen. A lot of them weren't playing. So this is the first time that I think they've lost a game where they could turn around and correct that the next week. Because if you think about it, when a lot of them gained playing time their sophomore years, their only loss was in the playoffs to Anderson County. Last year's juniors, their only loss was at the end of the season in the playoffs to Upperman. So they've not had a regular season loss and not had to respond to a loss. They went undefeated all the way until they got knocked out in the playoffs. So I would not like to be Morristown West this week when Greeneville walks in there. It's always a close game whenever Greeneville and Morristown West plays, no matter the teams. But, I mean, I'm not one to say things are going to be a blowout, and I'm not one to predict things, but Greeneville might go in with a sharper attitude than usual.
They're going to be playing inspired football.
Absolutely.
And that could be a dangerous thing for anybody that's in their way. We'll see.
But we'll go ahead and take one commercial break before we touch on West Green next. We'll get another word from our sponsors in there. So stay tuned. We'll cover the Buffaloes on the back half when we see you right back in just a minute here on the Pizza Inn Saturday Morning Kickoff Show, live here on Grassroots Media.
Hey, Greene County. If you are looking for a cool, refreshing treat, then stop on by at Pelican Snowballs. At Pelican's, we are not your typical shaved ice shop. We have over 100 flavors. Whether you're looking for something sweet or sour, or possibly a combination of both, we have plenty of options to choose from. We also have a variety of toppings and add-ons in which we can provide different combinations to customize your taste through our signature snowballs. We have a welcoming and vibrant atmosphere that is perfect for socializing and relaxing. With plenty of seating and new fun games for all ages, we want to create a space where everyone feels welcome and can have a great time. We want to invite you to bring life, happiness, and opportunity to people through the world's best snowball experience. Whether that is at our storefront, which is located at 1016 Tusculum Boulevard in Greeneville, or you can book us for your next event. We can't wait to see everyone.
After serving as a barber in the United States Navy, Joe Smith opened his barbershop in Greeneville, Tennessee in 1975. Joe has cut hair ever since. Today, his grandson Tyler is following in his footsteps. At Joe's barbershop, walk-ins are always welcome, with the shop open Tuesday through Friday, 7 to 5, and on Saturday from 7 to 2. So stop on by and see the gang at Joe's Barbershop at 1105 West Irish Street.
Concert Inc. is so excited to announce they will have their first annual Benefit Fall Festival and Car Show on Saturday, October 26th at the Greene County Fairgrounds from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Join us for a fun fall day filled with a variety of food trucks, craft vendors, music entertainment from the A-Team and G-Man Blues and Dr. Ron, a kids zone, and last but not least, the car show. Free admission and parking for spectators, so grab your family and friends and come out to enjoy the day. All proceeds from this event will benefit the people we support at ComCare. ComCare is a nonprofit organization in Greene County that enriches the lives of people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. If you are interested in pre-registering for the car show at a $20 entry fee, being a vendor, or for more information, please contact us today, 823-1971. We hope to see you there.
Sand Meat Market, your ultimate meat destination. Step into Sand Meat Market for a curated selection of steaks, lamb, goat, and other quality foods. Each cut is meticulously crafted to exceed your expectations, promising a dining experience like no other. Elevate your dining experience and visit Sand Meat Market today. Indulge in the exceptional quality and taste that only Sand Meat Market can provide. Join us on this culinary journey and savor the difference.
Pizza, pancakes, or donuts. The Davy Crockett Travel Center in Baileyton has the cure for all your cravings. While you're there, shop our general store for souvenirs, gifts, and cellular accessories. In a hurry, grab a cold drink and a hot dog to go. Check us out on Facebook and come to Baileyton.
Pizza Inn offers contactless buffet to go with JoJo's Family Feast or anything on our menu for carryout. We also honor birthday parties and cater to businesses and large events. We make it easy. Call us today. Pizza Inn Greeneville.
Welcome back to Grassroots Media. Welcome back to this morning's edition of the Pizza Inn Saturday Morning Kickoff Show, live here from Pizza Inn in Greeneville. As always, I'm your host Tyler here with my co-host Dalton Lamb. Hey,
yeah, it's not co-host Dalton with, or it's not host Dalton with co-host Tyler.
I can lead the show this time because I'm
go.
not the co-host anymore. But we haven't shouted him out any this year, but in this year.
Yeah, and also speaking of that, I posted. It's in the if you're watching this on Facebook or even YouTube, where it's at. It's in the description, but I want to mention this as well. It's something we're going to continue to mention as the rest of the season goes on. Kyle had texted me. I'm going to have to find the text so that I don't say this incorrectly. From now through November 1st, Tyler.
Okay.
It's something that Pizza Inn here is calling Friday Night Lights. From now through November 1st, Pizza Inn is staying open until 11 o'clock or after football game type celebration type deal. You come in here wearing your team colors or a logo of some sort from the high school that you've been supporting that night, you're going to get $2 off your order. So that's the promotion that they're running. It's called Friday Night Lights. Pizza Inn is staying open until 11 o'clock on Friday nights after football games. Come in here wearing team colors or a logo, get $2 off your meal. Shout out to Kyle for not only sponsoring this show, but just everything he does for the, I mean, there's all kinds of benefits here all the time. This place is a staple in the community, and it helps not only companies like ours, but also tons of nonprofits around our area as well.
So what you're saying is next Friday night, Chucky Doak, North Green, and West Green fans, after they pick up 3 wins next week, they need to come in here and eat at Pizza Inn.
They need to come in here and eat at Pizza Inn.
$2 off your wearing the gear, and I'm assuming if you're going to be there at the game on Friday night,
You're going to be wearing
uniforms neat.
Yep. Come in here and
I'm
eat.
sure they don't want to do that, but
$2 off. I mean, it's a bar out here. It's a bar, a buffet bar.
Yes.
Yeah. Kyle's not running a bar scene on Friday night for the high school.
No.
That's not what's happening. But $2 off your meal here at Pizza Inn. Friday Night Light special. Come in here on Saturday morning. I know that they don't open until like 11, but you can call in and come and pick up this breakfast pizza, which I'm going to be honest with you, that breakfast pizza was baked in a fire brick oven in like some holy land, because that stuff is unbelievable.
This is one of the, not just saying this because we're hyping them up right now, but this is one of the best ones we've had in a while.
I consider myself a breakfast pizza aficionado. I have this ritual that every Sunday before band practice at church, I stop by and get a Hunt Brothers breakfast pizza, which they're also very good. But I stop by and get a Hunt Brothers breakfast pizza, and every Sunday morning. I mean, it's like clockwork. And there's sometimes where they don't have breakfast pizzas ready, and like my whole day's ruined. But I consider myself a breakfast pizza lover and aficionado. This is the best in the game. It's the best in the game.
I agree.
And
no matter how you make it.
Yeah, I was about to say, no matter how you make it. We do the Fat Man Special, which is just lots of calories and bacon and grease and sausage.
Bacon, sausage, ham is what's on it right now. You can go the
you and Mark like to go the
veggie pizza, just run it through the garden, everything with black olives.
Yeah, I don't really like that breakfast. I mean, you know, like peppers aren't really a breakfast food.
Onions really aren't either.
No.
But it's good at the end of the day, and we also invite you all to come down here. We say it almost every single week now.
time.
If you want to come down here and just sit right there in one of those chairs and watch it, we've had people do it before. I'll shout him out. Shout out David Brooks. He's done it a few times also.
Done it a few times.
I'm sure that he's watching right now, so if you're watching, David, shout out to you. But if you come during the break, we'll give you free breakfast pizza.
Yeah.
I will say this is completely my fault too, but we haven't had any coaches or players on this show yet this year either. So
Lori Wilhoit mentioned last night, she said, do you want me to come there tomorrow morning and eat some pizza? I was like, come on.
she was a needle mover last year.
She was.
I think up until the first, I keep up with stats sometimes on our viewership and such.
Yeah.
I think the first kickoff show that Mark and I did this year was the most viewed one that we had ever had. Before that, the most viewed one that we had ever had was back to last year when Lori sat on the show and did it. So I think that inflated her head a little bit, knowing that she was a needle mover and gave us our highest viewership on the Saturday morning shows.
Possibly.
But at the end of the day, it's okay because we'll take every bit of viewership that we can get.
100%. And then if you want to run over to grmediatn.com and get a subscription and move that needle, we appreciate that too.
$8 a month, $72 for a year. You get to catch up on all the latest athletics throughout the
What these
county.
guys
Not only
do.
football too, but man, I thought about it the other day. This year has sort of been the year of streaks ending because last week we had North Green volleyball beating South Green volleyball.
First time they'd lost a region game.
08. First time they lost a region game since they had moved down to Class 1A.
A decade.
And then guess what? They come back and West Green beating Chucky Doak last week, which was the first time that had happened since 2019 in football. And then you've got North Green winning 3 in a row for the first time since 2012. So you've got a lot of firsts. You've got a lot of streaks being broken. So hopefully that continues throughout the rest of our season all the way up until May. And we keep talking about that. But before we run too long into talking about that, we do need to cover West Green.
Yep.
Apologies to the West Green fans for waiting this long if you're still here, but we'll talk about that right now. They hosted Eagleton last night. Homecoming night. Only the second time they'd ever played Eagleton. Of course, last year was their first year of varsity action. Didn't go the way they wanted to. Eagleton seems like a very, very talented football team that has a very good shot at running that region this year. And dare I say that because they do have our good friends South Green in that region also. But Eagleton is a very talented football team, and that showed last night when they beat West Green 37-15. Faced a little bit of adversity last night. They were down 7-3, only scored 3 points on a 30-yard field goal in the first quarter, and then scored, I believe it was 4 touchdowns in the second quarter.
Yeah.
And basically ended the game right there because whenever they came out in the second half, West Green had no answer. Austin Franklin did all he could, 76 rushing yards on the night. Austin Brown from West Green, as we spoke about earlier in the show, had that first career start against Chucky Doak last week. Really broke out onto the scene and became a candidate for Breakout Player of the Year and went down with an injury last week. Don't know the extent of that, but he was banged up, stayed out the rest of the game. Seemed like that took the wind out of West Green's sails because they were never able to come back and play the same as they did last week against Chucky Doak. We were hoping that kind of translated into this week. They could bring that same energy over, but that wasn't the case. They go up 7-0 after Austin Franklin's 60-yard punt return touchdown. Then they give up 31 straight. Austin Franklin did have one more touchdown at the end of the game. Well, not at the end of the game, but later in the game with a 75-yard rushing touchdown. But tough Eagleton team last night. Wasn't the way that you want to end homecoming night, of course. Homecoming is, I think, the number one night that you want to win every year outside of senior night. But not the way things were anticipated to go last night on the range. But they've got Unicoi County next week at home. Non-region game. It's kind of the same situation as last week against Chucky Doak. They got blown out by Cloudland. They responded well against Chucky Doak. You were thinking that energy would translate over in their first region game. This week is a perfect opportunity for them to respond back against Unicoi going into the Milk Can game against South Green. So,
which is a big region game.
Yes, absolutely huge region game, considering that West Green is now 0-1 and West Green's 1-0, and with the rivalry that it is. So, won't look too far ahead to that game. Us personally, as West Green alumni, we love looking forward to that game. But you can't look ahead and overlook Unicoi County. South Green going back to them also. They cannot overlook Union County, but both of those teams will get warm-ups before going into that game. Unicoi, I don't know as much about them this year.
They destroyed Sullivan East last night.
Okay, so
like
that's
58-3.
So Unicoi seems like
They're
very
a
good
legitimate
team.
football team.
If I remember correctly, I want to think that they were ranked top 10.
They
Maybe
should be.
10th.
They should be.
I know 3 teams in that Region 1 3A conference are ranked top 10, and I know Gatlinburg, Pittman, and Pigeon Forge were 2 of those for sure. I'm wanting to think the other was Unicoi, and Johnson City and Chucky Doak had receiving votes.
Johnson County.
Yes, Johnson County. But Unicoi County going into West Green next week, that'll be a tough test for West Green. Another tough test at home.
It will be. Again, I mean, it's one of those games you want to win, but with South Green coming up, you're already 0-1 in the region. Like, you need to come out of Unicoi County healthy and with everybody intact.
Yes.
To go, I believe that's on the road this year at South Green, to go over to Rebel Hill for that game. Because, yes, it is a big rivalry game, big bragging rights type game, but none of that matters because playoff contention is really at risk if you don't win that game.
Yep. Because, I mean, I said we don't want to look forward to that game too much, but, I mean, you can't overlook it. If South Green wins that game, they're locked into the playoffs.
Yeah.
Whether they lose the rest of them, they would sit at 4th, but they would have 2 wins and be locked in. If West Green loses 2 and starts that region slate 0-2, they're in trouble.
Mm-hmm. And Happy Valley
beating Hampton last night.
That's a big deal.
Yes. So.
I mean, Happy Valley beating Hampton. Happy Valley's a good team, and it's Happy Valley's one of those teams that I think is going to be up towards the top of the conference this year, competing.
I think so too. I think they're up there with South Green and Eagleton. And watching Cumberland Gap last night, West Green has a very good shot at a win in that game. They beat Cumberland Gap last year. They beat North Green in the opening game this year. North Green just beat Cumberland Gap by 21. Throw that logic out of the window that we like to use in sports, but at the same time, West Green looks like they can take that game from Cumberland Gap and get one of those wins under their belt, but they need another win somewhere. Is it South Green? Is it Happy Valley? Is it Hampton? Those are 3 very tough teams. Happy Valley's not as easy as it had been in the last few years, where you look back at Happy Valley seasons before last season when they finished 2nd in the conference. They were one of those teams that I think everybody looked at and circled on their calendars like, hey, that might be one of our region wins this year. It's not the same anymore. Happy Valley's got a very good shot at winning this thing this year.
Yep.
But West Green hosting Unicoi County, Greeneville traveling to Mo West, North Green hosting Hancock County, Chucky Doak hosting Pigeon Forge, and then South Green traveling to Union County. As we just talked about on the beginning of this portion of the show, for those North Green, Chucky Doak, and West Green fans, heck, even the Greeneville and South Green fans, if you make it back in time, come here to Pizza Inn, get you some pizza.
Open till 11.
Team apparel, you get $2 off, and then you wake up and you watch our show for Pizza Inn. How perfect is that?
That's it.
Usually we talk about college football at the end of this, but man, we don't have a good slate today.
We don't. Go Vols, horns down, birds up.
Birds up.
UTSA, baby. Birds up.
The Roadrunners.
Birds up. That's my brother. He's in that online dynasty I was talking about. He's UTSA, so
I'll give them credit. They play in a pretty cool dome. Alamo Dome.
Probably my
If they
favorite.
still play there.
Probably my favorite team in Texas.
UTSA?
No, actually, probably North Texas. North Texas is probably my favorite team because.
I forget about them.
Well, the reason why North Texas is probably my favorite team is because that's where Stone Cold Steve Austin played football.
Okay.
So
Never knew that. How did I not know that?
I
That's
don't know
awesome.
how you didn't know that, but
Yeah, there's a lot of colleges in Texas.
he's
You got Texas,
the man.
you got A&M, you got Tech, you got Christian, you got SMU, North Texas, UTSA, UTEP. You got a lot.
But only one of them had Stone Cold Steve Austin that went there.
That's true.
Played football there. So
That's true.
Go Mean Green.
That's all we've got this week. Covered everything. If you'd like to read more, grmediatn.com. $8 a month, $72 for a year. Read every article written last night from myself, Tate Russell, and Mark Brooks. Shout out to them also, because they're the main reasons that I can sit down here and talk about these on Saturday morning, because I read the articles that they publish on Saturday mornings. So shout out to Tate, shout out to Mark. Mark, we miss you, man.
We do
Getting
miss you.
replaced. I wonder if he even sees any of these.
Probably not.
Do you ever see me talking about you on coaches shows?
No.
See, I knew you would.
Now that's why you can probably say whatever you want, but sometimes whenever you say stuff, I guess it gets back to me. Like, hey, did you see what Tyler said? No, I didn't.
That's always my quote. I wonder if he'll see that.
Well, so here's what I'll say. Here's what I will say. I have a whole lot going on.
Oh, I understand.
And I tell people this all the time. When it comes to news, I don't have to worry about it. Like, I literally will call Tate or text Tate and be like, hey, what do you need me to do? Like, you tell me what to do and I'll do it. And with you, it's the same way. Like, I don't have to watch them to see if they're good. I don't have to watch them to see if they happen. Like, I don't I don't have to do that because we've got such a team that everybody just does their thing. And so if it's like a coach's show where it's a big game week, I might watch some of it. Admittedly, I watch the TMB show just for entertainment factor.
Listen, the TMB show's a little different. I think everybody watches the
Yeah,
TMB
I
show.
watch it just for
That
entertainment
was
factor.
excluded. Yeah.
But some of these coaches, I mean, Sean Jones is probably the exception. Some of these other coaches are just really boring. They need to step it up. I mean, like, make it more entertaining.
I won't give a name, but interesting enough, I had a West Green student come up to me the other night who watches all of my coaches' shows and tell me that he thought Sean Jones was funny. And I was like, you should tell him that because he'd probably like that because there's not many
Said he's a
people.
West Green student?
Yeah, there's not many people on the western side of that river that really like Sean Jones, so he'd probably like it if you said that to him.
Well, that's what I was about to say. He ought to go tell Adrian Salzman that. I would love to see an Adrian Salzman, Clinton Hahn, Sean Jones, and Joe Case show together.
I don't know about that one.
I mean, it works for the WWE. Like, I just like I mean, they can be cordial. They don't hate each other.
No.
I mean,
Coach said it this week. Coach Jones did on that Chucky Dope preview. He said before the game we're friends, after the game we're friends, but during the game we hate each other. So,
but you know,
that's just how it is in sports.
there's the connection that, and I talk to Clinton Hahn about it all the time because, you know, Clinton Hahn is a staple at West Green High School.
Yes, he really is.
But Clinton Hahn does not make it to West Green High School if it's not for Joe Case. And so there's that old-time connection between Coach Case and Clinton. And then, you know, Adrian is just a noted hater of anything that's not blue and gold. Like, the
also,
only
through and through bleeding blue and gold citizen out there on the western side of the county.
So he's a Glenwood alum, okay? And in his basement, I won't tell you exactly where he lives, but in his basement, he's got a Glenwood Chiefs towel hanging up. And, like, he'll fight you if you talk about the Chiefs and how they're really no longer a school. But he'll fight you over it. And they are a school. I mean, they obviously are a school. But it's just different than it used to be. But he'll fight you over it. Same thing about West Green. I mean, he's blue and gold through and through. He's got a soft spot for North Green because he student taught out there. And he really liked it out there as well. But I always say that that's just the same reason that you and we were born and raised in that same culture. Like, oh, you're supposed to hate everybody but the West Side. But now that we've, you know, been enlightened and we've met these other people and we're like, you know what, they're not so bad. You know, like they're actually pretty cool and they're pretty good and they're nice and they're funny.
Yes.
It's like, that's what I love about these coaches shows is that people get to see these personalities. And I like, you know, some of these coaches don't really have a personality that's entertaining or funny. They're just all business all the time. And that doesn't, for instance, Terry Hosey. Terry Hosey is a guy that I can sit and have a conversation with for hours on end.
Trust me, we do. That isn't seen.
And just listen to him talk and give wisdom. I see him like a Mark Bowles for me. Just somebody that, you know, is full of wisdom and you want to glean from and everything. But, like, I'm not going to tune into the Terry Hosey show thinking, like, I got my popcorn ready. Now, James Buchanan,
A little different.
anything that man does, I will watch. If he is knitting a tablecloth of some sort, I will tune in because something that's going to come out of his mouth is going to be noteworthy. And I think it would be neat to get Adrian and Clinton and Sean and Joe in a room together and just have some topics and just let them talk because they all, I don't care what any of them say. No, not a debate.
Okay.
Just talk ball, talk things.
Okay.
Because I don't care what any of them say. At the end of the day, they're all professionals. They all care about each other. They're good guys. They're not going to, they may have some differing opinions on things, but nobody's going to fight. Nobody's going to get upset or whatever. But it would be entertaining.
I think an entertaining one would be to pit Clinton Hahn against any of them because he's an Alabama fan, and everybody else in that bunch is a Tennessee fan.
Well,
That's always a fun discussion when you pit Alabama and Tennessee fans with each other. It's about as fun as if you pit
Clinton reminds me of an Alabama fan.
Florida fans and Tennessee fans together. Now, Georgia fans, A little different in this day and age right now because, no offense, but Georgia's been whooping up on the Vols for
Yeah,
7-8 years now, so it's not really a rivalry if only one team wins every single year.
Yeah, but some of you guys are just young bucks and don't remember.
Oh, yeah, I understand, but the good thing for me is since I've been around and been watching college football, Tennessee hasn't really beaten their rivals and have kind of been little brother to everybody.
Not really much you can say about that. I mean, yeah, it is the truth. I mean, they've not really beaten anybody consistently in the last decade and a half, really. But you know,
Vandy.
Well, no, well, we didn't beat Vandy for a few years. I remember.
You've got more wins than they have the last 20 years, though.
Oh well, yeah, sure.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like you've whooped up on them. That's one team you can always.
Oh yeah, that's good. I'm
hold
glad.
one over.
Yeah, okay. It's like you, the 4-year-old bigger brother, beating up on your 4-year younger little sister. Like, oh, you always got that little sister you can beat up on. Like, how does that?
That's Vandy.
Well, anyhow,
I think it's everybody in the SEC though.
It is.
Everybody looks at Vandy and they're like, win.
So back to that original. I don't know if Sean or Clinton watches this a lot. Adrian sometimes
Clinton does.
If they're watching, then they'd like to get this going. And they'd like to have this like a little pay-per-view event where they all get together and they all just sit down and talk about things. I'd like to see that. We've only got 2 people watching right now, but there will be more people see this later.
There will. If you've made it this far, like always,
You're a trooper.
Yes, we appreciate you because
You're a trooper. This is us like decompressing for the day.
yes, because we talk. I'm not going to say we're more tense whenever we're talking about the high school games, but we're more at work.
Yeah.
When you're talking about the high school games, when we're just
When we're talking ball. All right, Tyler, I've said all I need to say. There's a lot of people in here now.
We're running about an hour and 15 where we usually run. We usually get that 10 minutes of jawing in at the end of it, but that's all we've got this week. Once again, thank you for watching this week's edition of the Pizza Inn Saturday Morning Kickoff Show live here from Pizza Inn of Greeneville. Thank you to Kyle for allowing us to sit down again, come get you some breakfast pizza, call it in and carry it out. Mark, we might see you next week. If not, we might see you again next week.
We'll be back.
Either way, I'm your host, Tyler, and I'll be here next week no matter what. Thank you all for watching this week's edition. Look forward to seeing you next time here on Grassroots Media.